even clear if indeed Saif al-Islam was in fact arrested. Was he taken into custody and then let go, or did it actually ever happen? And it just shows you just how chaotic and how fluid the situation it is there in Tripoli. Now, what we do know is that rebels from the Tripoli underground movement have been complaining about their Benghazi colleagues giving the go-ahead to the International Criminal Court to allow the Gaddafi and his sons and the brother-in-law, Abdullah al-Sanusi, who's also the head of military intelligence, if they were to be captured, that they'd be sent to The Hague to be tried. Now, that didn't go down well at all with the rebels in the west part of the country. They want those men to be tried in Libya. And it just shows you the problems in terms of the day-to-day leadership of a rebel movement that doesn't clearly have a sort of significant leader as such. It's a movement riddled with divisions from those from the east versus those from the west, those with a more secular viewpoint versus those who are more Islamist, political leaders who also themselves have fractious militias. So yes, it's going to be very hard to bring those groups together. Certainly Americans and the NATO officials have been working hard for the NTC leadership in Benghazi to sort of map out some sort of cohesive strategy, but whether that's going to be able to play out in the next few days, weeks, months, we'll have to wait and see.
Let's talk a little bit about NATO. I mean, a few details beginning to emerge of other things that they might have been involved in, as well as just this bombing campaign.
Well, it's an open secret that NATO countries were providing those rebel troops with all sorts of assistance, certainly covert assistance and intelligence backup. And we do know that diplomats have acknowledged that teams from France, Britain and even Eastern European countries were providing critical assistance to the rebel leadership. The aid, we know, involved providing them with security advisors, air controllers, damage assessment experts and other analysts. Foreign military advisors on the ground were absolutely crucial in ensuring that real-time intelligence was being provided to rebel troops. The other big part of all this was the use of those US military drones, the Predators, which were giving constant updated information. They were surveying those Gaddafi troops, where they were going, where they were heading, where they were stockpiling their weapons. And the other important element of all this was training. And we saw that in the last few weeks, that clearly it started to become a more moderately effective force as opposed to what we'd seen in the early part of the campaign.
Given what the situation seems to be on the ground now, a lot of governments have been very keen to say that they're not going to get troops involved in Libya. What about the possibility of an international peacekeeping force, though? Because it does appear that that might be a necessity. Yeah,
well, the White House has already said that they don't want to commit any troops and certainly are not interested in even in a peacekeeping role. NATO officials so far have been very reluctant to give any indication that they will field a peacekeeping force in order to help the rebels secure a non-violent transition to a new national government. But we've been talking about this for the last few days, Stuart. I mean, this is a country that has 140 plus tribes. It's a divided rebel movement. Not to mention the opportunity for revenge and the fact it's a large country, sparse population, which provides an ideal opportunity for guerrilla warfare. US officials have insisted that they're committed to help install a democratic government, but the reality is, how are you going to do that? And especially given now with the financial situation facing both the Eurozone and Washington, you can see that politically the idea of suddenly being enmeshed long-term in a country such as Libya is not that attractive. But yet again, having seen what we have seen in the last few days, it does beg the question is, surely at some point there's going to be a sort of an independent international peacekeeping force required in order to help restore law and order.
Annette, thank you very much. As usual, a useful insight at some of the other issues, of course, facing Libya. Now, leading the rebel advance in Libya is the Tripoli Revolutionary Brigade. Many of them are dual nationals who returned to Libya with the express mission to liberate the capital. These exclusive and extraordinary images were shot by France 24's Mathieu Mabin.
Leading the push for Tripoli.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Setting off at first light, a column of highly trained, highly equipped fighters. Sam, here on the left, is a dual Irish-Libyan citizen, one of many foreign fighters to join the conflict.
You have to go over there until you reach the school, even if someone shoots at you. I don't understand why you don't want to fight and gain ground. Even if you don't have any more ammunition, you have to go on alone. Because they will think you're part of an army, and that will scare them.
Further down the road to Tripoli, the brigade is hunting out scattered Gaddafi gunmen.
They just killed one of ours.
We'll deal with it.
He's over there.
We can go around this way. Come on, let's go.
The rebels fight pockets of resistance alongside the main coast road.
They are less than 2 kilometers from here.
Are you afraid to die?
No, because this is for freedom.
Winning that freedom could prove a very long journey. In some neighbourhoods, the fighters are met by joyful support. But even they don't really know how much resistance remains in the capital.
Yeah, that report filmed by France 24's reporters in Libya. Can move on to other stories now, and the prosecutors say it is sure that a brief sexual encounter did take place between Dominique Strauss-Kahn and Nafissatou Diallo, but it is also sure that Diallo has told repeated lies, and prosecutors say their cumulative effect would be devastating. That is what they have decided as they all but abandon the case, filing a motion to dismiss all the charges. On the line now, Martine Moscovici, who's a lawyer on the Paris bar. Thanks very much for joining us today. Looks like Dominique Strauss-Kahn could be a free man today.
Can you repeat your question?
It looks like he could be a free man today. You think he'll be free?
I think it's normal that he's free now. I've never believed this so-called rape, and I will tell you why. Because I defend a lot of women who've been victims of rape with oral sex. There is always a weapon in these cases. There's always a gun or a knife. With Dominique Strauss-Kahn case, and Nafissatou Diallo, no one has ever told about any weapon or any threat. And furthermore, she's tall and strong, and he's short and fat. So she could have beaten him, or she could have pushed him very violently. So I've never believed there was a rape.
You didn't think there was any kind of incident at all, then?
No, I think there was maybe something wrong about the money. Maybe I think there was they had a sexual affair, but I've never believed there was a rape because there's no threat. I haven't seen where the threat is because she's much stronger than him. Some people would have told that she was afraid to lose her job. Okay, but in this kind of situation, all the women I've defended were really threatened. They all told me if there was not a gun, if there was not a knife, I would have bite him, I would have pushed him, I would have done something to defend me. So I've never believed it.
Assuming this is over now, though, in the US, there's still another case facing Dominique Strauss-Kahn. He's still got the potential of having to face a civil case filed by Christine Bannon.
Well, in France, it's not a civil case, it's a criminal case, but the problem is it's so old. It was supposed to happen 8 years ago. We all know that it won't go to it won't reach the end. It will be dismissed as well.
Martine Moscovici, a lawyer on the Paris bar. Thanks very much for talking to us today. A European and US draft resolution is calling for UN Security Council sanctions against the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Diplomats say the resolution's drafters, the US, France, Britain, Germany and Portugal, have included several Syrian firms that they hope to blacklist. They are also urging that Syria's violence is referred to the International War Crimes Tribunal in The Hague.
Over 2,200 civilian deaths. It's time for an end to the crackdown in Syria. That was the message at an emergency UN meeting in Geneva on Monday, where UN Human Rights Chief Navi Pillay surmised a recent humanitarian report on Syria, describing what she believes could be crimes against humanity. The findings of the UN mission have prompted the suggestion that President Bashar al-Assad be referred to the International Criminal Court.
Widespread or systematic human rights violations by Syrian security and military forces, including murder, enforced disappearances, torture, deprivation of liberty and persecution.
The UN report says the Syrian military has been employing a shoot-to-kill policy with protesters, a state of affairs that's attracted concern from all corners. UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon said he was particularly troubled that Bashar al-Assad had not kept his word to cease military operations.
He has seen and he has heard all these serious and urgent calls to him. And I sincerely hope that he heeds to all international communities' appeal and call.
On Sunday, Assad appeared on state television, shrugging off criticism from his international detractors. He warned foreign countries near and far that his government was far from destabilised, despite the 5-month popular uprising. Soon afterwards, fresh protests in Homs were marred by violence, as local reports say security forces opened fire on the crowd, killing 3 people and wounding many more. Witnesses say thousands of people were present at the demonstration, information that's impossible to verify since practically all journalists have been expelled from Syria.
Now, a rapidly strengthening Hurricane Irene has cut a destructive path through the Caribbean, pounding Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic with strong winds and rain. Forecasters say the winds are already reaching speeds to close to 160 kilometres per hour. Trees have been torn up, homes severely damaged and power knocked out to more than 1 million people. It's now heading towards the southeast of the US. Meanwhile, in that storm, guests, including the Academy Award-winning actress Kate Winslet, have escaped uninjured as fire destroyed the British businessman Richard Branson's Caribbean home. The head of the Virgin Group said about 20 people, including Winslet and her children, were staying in the 8-bedroom Great House on Necker, his private island in the British Virgin Islands. Coming up then, in sport, Arsene Wenger, he's in the doghouse. The Arsenal manager found guilty of a breach of discipline. That's right after the break. Stay with us on France 24.
France 24 on your iPad. Keep up to date on international news in real time, whether you're at home or on the move. France 24's worldwide coverage now on your iPad. Reports from the field, debates, interviews, accessible anywhere, anytime, and it's all free. France 24 on the iPad. The news, wherever and whenever you want it.